You're listening to the Wells Report, which will be back in 4 minutes. This is the Wells Report, which will return in 3 minutes. This is the Wells Report, which will return in 2 minutes. You're listening to the Wells Report, which will return in 1 minute. The Wells Report returns in 30 seconds. North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. What do we do here? I'm asking. Actually, I know what I do here. I'm asking for you. In other words, do you know what I do here? No? Good. We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. What we do is we de-propagandize the mainstream media. We make commentary, which is not news. That's opinion, both yours and mine. And so we debate. News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Big news day today. We started with the front page news since yesterday's show, and while we were asleep, this for Wednesday, September 6th, 2023. Attorney General for Texas, Ken Paxton, has pled not guilty at his impeachment trial. Embattled Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton pled not guilty yesterday through his attorney during the first day of his state Senate impeachment trial. This, by the way, being reported from Newsmax. The allegations are untrue. Therefore, Ken Paxton pleads not guilty. The Hill reported attorney Tony Busby told the court over and over and over again until someone in the prosecution finally objected and said just make it a guilty plea or a not guilty plea. Paxton is facing 16 corruption charges by the Texas House in May by a vote of 121 to 23. Which includes his alleged efforts to attack the political enemies of Austin realtor Nate Paul, taking a bribe from Paul for protection, then engaging in activities to cover the wrongdoing. This, according to the prosecution report. The Texas Tribune reports that the first day of Ken Paxton's impeachment trial included a series of highly anticipated votes, including multiple bids to dismiss every article of impeachment. Those all failed. Paxton's attorney succeeded in another key early decision when Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, acting in his role as trial judge, ruled that the suspended attorney general could not be forced to testify during impeachment proceedings. In opening statements, the House impeachment managers accused Paxton of allowing a slow creep of corruption to taint his office. His lawyers fired back and disparaged the impeachment case against him as a dangerous exercise based on, quote, ignorance, innuendo, and outright lies, unquote. Prosecutors today are expected to continue calling witnesses who they hope will bolster their argument that Paxton should be removed from office. In national news this morning, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer has subpoenaed Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secret Service, and select DHS staffers over the Hunter Biden probe. The House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer yesterday subpoenaed Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, along with three other DHS employees, and two Secret Service staffers, as the House panel expands its inquiry into whether the Justice Department improperly tipped off the protective agency, the Secret Service, while investigating Hunter Biden over alleged tax crimes. The 6 subpoenas serve dual inquiries seeking information surrounding how the Secret Service, as well as the Biden transition team, was notified about plans to interview the president's son, along with alleged improper conduct by the agencies as committees aimed to get that information. The subpoena also includes demands regarding DHS's Office of Legislative Affairs and includes an allegation that DHS blocked the Secret Service from responding to a previous request for interviews regarding claims from IRS whistleblower Gary Shapley. Shapley, an IRS agent who previously led the investigation into Hunter Biden's tax issues, testified that the Secret Service headquarters was improperly tipped off about a planned December 8th, 2020 attempt to seek an interview with Hunter Biden, which then foiled those plans. Newsmax is reporting that in a statement, Representative Matt Gaetz predicted forthcoming efforts to compel the House to vote on impeachment and then delivered a warning to Speaker Kevin McCarthy, the Republican from California. Quote, Gaetz said, I worked very hard in January to develop a toolkit for House Republicans to use in a productive and positive way. I don't believe we're using those tools as effectively as we should be, unquote. Gaetz said that when the House returns to Washington next week, Republicans must proactively seize the initiative with a vote to initiate an impeachment inquiry against President Joe Biden. Biden is accused of, among other things, participating in his son Hunter's efforts to secure foreign business deals by trading on the Biden family name. Quote, that means forcing votes on impeachment, and if Speaker McCarthy stands in our way, he may not have the job long, unquote, said Representative Matt Gaetz. The London Daily Mail reports that President Joe Biden has sparked backlash after he hastily exited a Medal of Honor ceremony at the White House, leaving a celebrated war hero awkwardly alone on stage. The president, who's 80 years old, quickly made his way out of the East Room after awarding the nation's highest military honor to Captain Larry Taylor. He's 81 years old, a retired Army officer celebrated for his heroics during the Vietnam War. But while Taylor shed a tear as the medal was pinned around his neck, Biden appeared less moved by the moment as he reportedly was already heading out the door before the closing benediction was read. While many have reacted with fury, some have speculated that the commander-in-chief was trying to give the veterans the spotlight, leading to an awkward moment where Taylor was left alone on stage. The gaffe came after Biden was earlier criticized for removing his mask moments before greeting Taylor, despite First Lady Jill Biden's positive test for COVID-19 on the day before. President Biden's quick getaway is the latest in a long line of incidents that have led people to brand him disrespectful to troops, including an infamous moment where he repeatedly checked his watch during a ceremony honoring soldiers killed at the Abbey Gate suicide bombing in Kabul, Afghanistan in 2021. USA Today reports that former Proud Boys national chairman Enrique Tarrio was sentenced to 22 years in prison yesterday, the longest sentence yet, related to the Capitol attack on January 6, 2021. This after his conviction for seditious conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election and to keep Donald Trump in the White House. Prosecutors had sought 33 years in prison for Tarrio, 39 years of age. He is from Miami. He was not at the Capitol on January 6th, but had organized the Proud Boys members who were among the first to breach the historic building and who temporarily prevented Congress from counting Electoral College votes to certify the election. Tarrio argued at trial he was blamed for the riot after President Trump inflamed the mob. He was in Baltimore the day of the attack, did not direct anyone to assault police or destroy property, said his lawyers, who proposed a sentence of no more than 15 years. Doctors are pushing back on the recommendation by Dr. Anthony Fauci. This happened yesterday. Fox News reports Dr. Anthony Fauci, in an interview over the weekend, spoke about the potential return for mask wearing in America in light of a seasonal uptick of COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations. Doctors now, reached by Fox News, are sharing their reactions to the comments by the former White House chief medical advisor. I'm concerned that people will not abide by masking recommendations, said Fauci. Dr. Brett Osborne, a board-certified neurosurgeon in West Palm Beach, Florida, also the founder of a preventative health care and anti-aging facility called Senolytics, said this. He pointed to limited efficacy data for masks, particularly regarding the large-scale spread of the disease, as was the case during the pandemic. Quote, let's face it, regardless of mask usage, the population en masse will be exposed to SARS-CoV-2 and its variants, as is the case with influenza, said Dr. Osborne. He continued, quote, this is inevitable and independent of quarantines, lockdowns, and other measures that only cultivate a sense of false security, the doctor said. In political news today, the doctor that examined Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Dr. Brett Monahan, the Capitol attending physician, has confirmed in a letter that he did look over Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell after his freeze-up last week and said that there is no evidence McConnell had a seizure or experienced a stroke, TIA, or movement disorder such as Parkinson's disease. Quote, my examination of you following your August 30th, 2023 brief episode included several medical evaluations, brain MRI imaging, EEG study, and consultations with several neurologists for a comprehensive neurological assessment, Monahan wrote to McConnell. He is a Republican from Kentucky. He's 81 years of age. His office released the letter yesterday. Quote, there is no evidence that you have a seizure disorder or that you experienced a stroke, a TIA, which, by the way, is a transient ischemic attack, or a movement disorder such as Parkinson's disease. Good news. By the way, ABC News now reports that most Senate Republicans say they stand by Mitch McConnell, regardless of his various health issues. While Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell's health may have raised questions outside the Senate about his fitness to serve, most GOP senators yesterday stood by their leader, expressing confidence in his ability to carry out his job. Quote, we may expect that Mitch McConnell will check out for 20 seconds a day, but the other 86,380 seconds in the day, he does a pretty darn good job, said Senator Mitt Romney, the Republican from Utah. Quote, I'm firmly behind his remaining as our leader. Sounds good to me, so I'm all good with Mitch, said Senator Lindsey Graham, the Republican from South Carolina. Romney and Graham's sentiments were shared by members of the Senate Republican leadership team, even those who are seen as possible successors to Mitch McConnell in his leadership role. ABC News is reporting that the UAW is going big when it comes to their union negotiations for a contract. They're talking about a 4-day work week at full-time pay, a 46% wage increase, a share of company profits among some of the demands of the union, representing approximately 150,000 workers at the big three U.S. car makers, General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. The United Auto Workers Union, the UAW, has vowed to launch a strike September 14th if the union and automakers fail to reach an agreement by then. Even UAW President Shawn Fain last month described the workers' set of demands as audacious. He defended the ambitious agenda in a series of public statements, citing billions in profits enjoyed by the big three. The automakers, meanwhile, have largely rejected the demands. Only Ford has presented a contract proposal offering a 9% wage increase over the term of the contract, plus a one-time payout that brings the total raise to 15%. In sports news today, Kim Russell is the women's lacrosse coach at Oberlin College, a liberal arts school in Ohio. She is speaking out regarding transgender inclusion in women's sports as she was a guest on the Ingram Angle with Laura Ingram last night. Russell had been the center of a large debate with Oberlin College after she talked about how administrators and her players ridiculed her after she posted her personal viewpoint about Leah Thomas winning an NCAA championship in swimming in 2022 on social media. Russell reposted a headline that sarcastically congratulated former Virginia swim star Emma Wyant for defeating Thomas, a transgender female, where the Yo women, they're called the Yeomen, so it would be the Yo woman. Head coach wrote, "What do you believe? I can't be quiet on this. I've spent my life playing sports, starting and coaching sports programs for girls and women. It's acceptable to have your own opinion, but when they go against Oberlin College beliefs, it's a problem." This from Craig Jantz. He is the Senior Associate Director of Athletics. And that is the front page for the Wells Report on this Wednesday, September 6th, 2023. We're going to be spending a lot more time talking about Ms. Russell. She is standing up for women's sports, and I am standing up for Kim Russell. She made a very good appearance last night on Laura Ingram. We're going to bring that to you a little bit later on this morning, so stick around for that. Also, we're going to be dipping in and out of coverage. We're going to do this coming up next. Prosecutors are going after Attorney General Ken Paxton in an impeachment trial that's happening right now in Austin, Texas, in the State House. We'll give you a little bit of that. And then also we'll have more of that sad moment where President Biden decided that what he was going to do was check out immediately after a Medal of Honor ceremony, leaving the winner standing on stage alone. Back in just a moment.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Greetings, this is the Wells Report. I am John David Wells. Thanks very much for joining us. I'm glad you're here. Speaking of joining us, there's a possibility that another one of those big storms is coming off the southern Atlantic and going to impact the United States. Which storm is this, you may be asking? Well, it's Tropical Storm Lee. Forming in the Atlantic Ocean, far east of the United States yesterday afternoon, expected to become a major hurricane, with winds approaching 140 miles an hour by the weekend. That would make it at least a Category 4, and maybe even stronger than that. It's got a long way to go across a very warm Atlantic Ocean. Looks like it might hit Florida or Georgia and South Carolina. That's where it's headed at this particular moment. They have what's called a cone, and the farther the storm moves, the wider the cone gets, hence the cone shape. And that probability is what they're looking at from a standpoint of where that storm is going to go. Hurricanes are basically pushed around by high pressure and low pressure air masses. Consider it like this. A low pressure air mass would be like downhill, so the storm would slide downhill. High pressure mass would be uphill, so it would be pushed along by a high pressure mass. That's the way that works. Those are the mechanics. And those steering currents are taking Lee immediately to about the center of the southeastern Atlantic coast of the nation. Let's see, interests across the Caribbean and along the East Coast from Florida to Maine will need to pay very close attention to this particular storm. This, according to AccuWeather meteorologist Brandon Buckingham. Depending on the path that the system takes, its expected time frame for potential impacts in the U.S. and Atlantic Canada may be September 13th through the 16th. So they're taking a look at that. And take a look at this. There's something going on in Utah. Now, we have been baking, broiling, crying in pain and misery. And why? I'll tell you why. Because, man, it's been hot this summer. But I want to let you know that there is good news on the way in the form of this. You know what that is? That's snow. Do you know where it's falling? At the 10,000-foot range, somewhere in, I don't know whether it's the Rockies or the Timpanogos Mountains in northern Utah. I believe it might be the Rockies. But as we sit here, baking, broiling, scorching ourselves every time we go outside, I want you to remember this picture, that wonderful picture of snow falling in the Sierra or the Rockies. I think it's, well, I don't know what mountain range that is. I probably should have checked before I got there. I was so excited to see snow in the Labor Day weekend. I was like going, yes. So maybe as bad as this summer has been from a heat standpoint, maybe our winter will check in a little bit early. Now, you might want to keep something in mind. I don't know whether you spend a lot of time around horses. I don't spend a lot of time around horses, but I do pay attention to horses about this time of year every year. And why do I do that, you might ask? Well, because I watch to see how soon it takes, how early their winter coat comes in. Now, we don't really have much problem with winter here in Texas. Every now and then here in North Texas, we'll get snow. And that snow is really hard for us to deal with because we don't really have a lot of snow-moving infrastructure around here, so it turns into a mess, especially on the overpasses. Anyway, I won't bore you with that, but I will tell you that I do pay attention to horses, and if their coats come in early, I go, just little word to the wise, the Farmer's Almanac is calling for early snow this year. So keep that in mind, all of these anecdotal things, and I still don't know how the Almanac gets it right every year, but they sure do. Their average of getting it right versus wrong is really spooky, actually. It is the Wells Report. I am John David Wells. We are getting you going on Wednesday. Coming up, we've got all the details you need to know about the continuing impeachment trial of Ken Paxton, the Attorney General of Texas. We'll bring you some live coverage from that and a lot more as we continue. And we'll be back in just a moment.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Good morning. If you find value in this broadcast, do me a favor. Subscribe to it. Pass it around to your friends. Ask them to subscribe to it. And then they can pass it around to their friends, only if they find value in it, but please ask them anyway. Give us a like or a thumbs up, whatever that happens to be. Make sure you get the notification bell to make sure that you know when we're on the air. And because we do this every day, Monday through Friday, between 9 and 11 here on the platform that you're watching. So by all means, join us. We have a chat room. We have a telephone number. The chat room is available on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Patreon, and Rumble. And it turns out that, from what I understand, it's Poker Monkey's birthday. Poker Monkey is celebrating his birthday. I don't know which birthday that is, but he is celebrating it nonetheless. Happy birthday, Poker Monkey. I'm glad you're here. Thanks very much for joining us. And these people are friends of ours that check in on the chat room every single day. Ginny Bayless is there. Also, I want to say hi to Anhoy Guzman and the other amazing people that join us here on our chat room. You can call us on the telephone, too, at 817-379-2172. That's 817-379-2172. And be a part of the Wells Report today, the 6th day of September, 2023. So, what is happening that you need to know about? Well, Attorney General Ken Paxton is indeed being impeached, and the trial is going on right now in the Texas Senate. You're asking yourself, gosh, I wonder what that looks like. Well, take a look. Here is what it looks like as they swear in the senators yet again. They apparently do this every single day because at the end of the day, apparently your oath expires at some level. And so that is up there standing behind the dais is Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and he is bringing the senators one at a time up to take their oath of impeachment office. In other words, they are swearing as jurors in the actual trial to be impartial and to listen to the evidence. The interesting thing about this is just exactly what's going on. This kind of came out of nowhere. For those of us watching Republican politics, we knew that there were certain charges, most of them labeled as scurrilous by a lot of us, that suddenly found a whole bunch of traction when there were several votes in the Texas House of Representatives regarding 16 counts in this impeachment trial. And then all of a sudden, there was an impeachment of the Attorney General of the state of Texas. Ken Paxton is an amazing human being who has really served not just Texas, but the state of the United States of America, and has done a very, very good job. We are finishing up the oaths of office. As you can see here, a couple of workers for the impeachment, a couple of clerks are being sworn in, and I believe this is the Secretary of the Senate about to be sworn in or something along that line. Yes, that's about it. Let's check in. Live coverage from the Texas Senate Chamber in Austin, Texas.
Clerk of the court.
And this will be the entire impeachment clerk staff swearing in before Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will impartially serve the court during the proceedings of the trial of Warren Kenneth Paxton Jr. on impeachment. So help me God. And thank all of you for preparing over the last several months the Senate for today. Thank you.
And then we'll get back into the business of the impeachment trial of Ken Paxton. Now, this is
for the record, I want to announce the counselors for the House of Managers. Please rise when I announce your name. Representative Andrew Murr. Representative Ann Johnson. Representative Briscoe Kane. Representative Terry Canales. Representative Aaron Gamez. Representative Charlie Guerin. Representative Jeff Leach. Representative Oscar Longoria. Representative Morgan Meyer. Representative Joe Moody. Representative David Spiller. And Representative Coney Basut, Dick DeGuerin, Rusty Hardin, Justice Harriet O'Neill, Brian Benkin, Jenny Bravorka, Therese Boyce, Donna Cameron, Isha Dennis, Mark Donnelly, Daniel Dutko, Aaron Epley, Ross Garber, Leah Graham, Lisa Hobbs, Laura Hollingsworth, Megan Moore, Mark White, and Jim Burrow. Did I miss anyone? Thank you.
Those are the House impeachment managers, and they are in the Senate to present their case.
Thank you, sir.
And they are also being introduced to the Texas senators by the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Texas, Dan Patrick.
I will announce the let me get my list here. Attorney General's Counsel, please rise when I call your name. Tony Busby, Dan Cogdell, Allison Collins, Anthony Dolcefino, Amy Hilton, Christopher Hilton, Colby Holler, Caitlin Jackson, Mitch Little, Joseph Mazzara, Anthony Oso, and Judd Stone. Did I miss anyone? Thank you. You may be seated.
As we said, the prosecution will continue their case they started yesterday with witnesses, etc. And we are waiting for that call from the Lieutenant Governor. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is not a lawyer nor a judge. He has someone sitting next to him for that particular circumstance, and we get a lovely commercial that was not something that I anticipated when we started covering this. But we do want to thank YouTube, the same platform that keeps the Wells Report on the air every single day, like clockwork, Monday through Friday from 9 until 11. They're helping us out. And so we help them out from time to time, although I'm not planning on giving them free advertising on this broadcast. Let's see what's going on while we were watching some bald guy talk to you about something that was very important. Let's see what else we got going on here. Let's see. And like I said, the prosecution will continue their case in just a couple of moments with appropriate questioning, and there is cross-examination. What I like about this is there is a judge from the Texas Supreme Court sitting next to Dan Patrick, advising him on an actual judicial hearing and trial, which is something that is not necessarily a decoration of the House of Representatives, as we've seen with 2 Trump impeachments.
I want to first introduce Judge Lana Myers, who is sitting next to me. She will be my legal counsel. I'm neither a lawyer or a judge, so I appreciate her giving of her time to be here today. She served with distinction in the Dallas area as a prosecutor on a criminal court and on the Fifth Court of Appeals. So I want to thank you for being here today. Thank you, Judge Myers.
All right, and so there we go. They are running again, and we will be checking in and out of that particular proceeding. The Texas Tribune has been covering this very, very well. The first impeachment of a Texas public official in nearly half a century drew Ken Paxton loyalists and state government enthusiasts to the Capitol to watch the trial of the Attorney General unfold yesterday. Compared to Ken Paxton's impeachment in the House in May, the first day of the Senate trial drew a smaller crowd, a majority of which included supporters of the now suspended Attorney General, to show solidarity at the Capitol. Paxton's defense has cast the House impeachment as an effort to overturn the will of Texas voters. But Tuesday's less-than-packed gallery did not reflect an outpouring of support from everyday conservatives. Instead, it was some of Paxton's most ardent, high-profile followers who watched the opening statements of the impeachment trial in the public viewing area. The first day of the Paxton trial was marked by the Senate decision, with 12 Republican senators voting with Democrats to move forward with the process initiated more than 3 months ago. That is something that's significant. 12 Texas Republican senators are voting with Democrats on this one. Now, all I can tell you is this. There is a problem. Texas voters, in case you don't live in Texas, for the last several elections, and this goes back nearly 20 years, for the last several elections have been making it abundantly clear that they expect the Texas legislature to bring us a conservative agenda. And by reasons that are baffling to most of us who are conservative, we find ourselves in a position where one vagary of Texas House rules after another come into the fore. It's not necessarily rules as much as it's just tradition. But typically in a House of Representatives setting, the House party with the most number of members, in other words, the majority party in the House of any set of representatives, whether it's Texas or anywhere else, typically what ends up happening is that they run the show. In other words, they have chairman on all of the chairman of all the committees are Republican or Democrat, depending on which party is in power. And that's the way it goes, except in Texas, where these people are friends, long-standing friends, and party politics, the lines between the parties get very blurred here in Texas. And there are people that continually get elected to various important circumstance, like Dude Phelan is currently the Speaker of the Texas House, and he ran as a fiery conservative and is not. And people are like shrugging our shoulders, wondering what goes on. What happens after you get elected as a conservative firebrand and then show up in Austin, Texas, stand in that beautiful State House? If you have not seen the Texas State House, it is impressive, as is the park around it. But let me tell you something. Something happens to conservatives when they walk into that building. Suddenly, they start ignoring their voters. And that's got to stop. Joe Strauss before dude, and so on and so on. By the way, I think it's kind of interesting that I live in a state where you could have a Speaker of the State House named Dude. Anyway, that being said, you'd think that would happen in California. Of course, it'd be pronounced differently. It would be Dude. That being said, what's happening here is that a lot of Republicans, for whatever reason, find themselves in a position where these blurred lines of party end up frustrating the voters of Texas. And it's very strange, and we'll see just exactly how long it continues. This got so bad a couple of elections ago that Republicans elected a supermajority. In other words, 60 people in the Senate. It would be something like that. It would be akin to that. The numbers aren't exact. But there was a supermajority in the Senate and the House. And the conservative agenda got a little more traction there, but not a lot. It was truly amazing to watch. Texas politics. Whew. Boy, buckle your seatbelts. You never know what... It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Accused of allowing a slow creep of corruption to taint his office, impeached Attorney General Ken Paxton fired back yesterday as his lawyers disparaged the impeachment case against him as a dangerous exercise based on ignorance, innuendo, and outright lies. Paxton's impeachment trial before the Republican-dominated Texas Senate began with a series of highly anticipated votes. We talked about those. There were 16 of them, all turned aside. Paxton did succeed in another key early decision. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said he did not have to testify against himself. That made sense. Called before the Senate for the only third impeachment in trial in Texas history, Paxton stood on the Senate floor beside his lead lawyer, Tony Busby, who pled not guilty to all 16 articles of impeachment. When the trial reconvened after lunch for opening statements, Paxton was absent, raising questions about whether he would be present for the remainder of the trial. Speaking on behalf of House impeachment managers who presented opening statements, First, Representative Andrew Murr, he's a Republican from Junction, said Paxton turned over the keys of the Attorney General's office to friend and donor Nate Paul, an Austin real estate investor who was under investigation by federal authorities. Paul was charged in June with 8 felony counts of lying to financial institutions to secure business loans. Paxton, Murr said, misused his powers of office by conducting sham investigations of Paul's rivals, improperly provided Paul with sensitive information about an FBI investigation into his business, and baselessly involved the Attorney General's office in a lawsuit between Paul and an Austin nonprofit. Will any of these charges gain traction? We don't know. That's what trials are for, and we're going to be covering this one as we continue watching the story of a Texas Attorney General facing an impeachment trial in the Texas Senate as we are doing this broadcast. We'll have that for you coming up. In more of that, by the way, maybe some video if we can find if they're doing something. It was almost a carbon copy of what happened yesterday this morning, and so we will continue in a second. Thanks for joining us. Back with more coverage of Ken Paxton's impeachment trial.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Our president is infirm. He's very old, and he is getting very much older with every passing day. It's sad to watch. It truly is. My aunt suffered from dementia and Alzheimer's disease. And I remember the first time I walked up to her after she had been diagnosed, and she did not have any idea who I was. And I had watched something about that. I'd watched a doctor discussing this particular circumstance with a family. And the young son of this infirm person that they were discussing said, what can we expect here? And he said, well, for the patient, it's not too bad. But for you, it's going to be difficult. If you take it personally that this person no longer recognizes you, you could. Oh, here, let me turn that down. Sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, we are watching the impeachment. We were watching the impeachment trial, and that was one of the things that we were spending a little bit of time on. But let me get back to this story. Anyway, it's not too bad for the actual patient, but very hard on the family if you take it personally. If you can realize that these people are essentially going to forget what just happened in a few minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, what have you, then it made it a little bit easier for me to deal with. But it's painful to watch. For example, the President of the United States handing out the nation's highest military decoration to a captain in the Vietnam era of the U.S. Army. And when he was finished, he thought he was finished and walked off stage.
House managers and Paxton defense team, I understand you have come to an agreement on exhibits.
That is true, Your Honor. Good morning.
And so you saw the President of the United States walking off stage, and it was very awkward. He left the winner of the Medal of Honor standing there all by himself. And this is something that you just can't do as a president. What was supposed to happen after the actual receipt of the medal was there was supposed to be a benediction, and then there was going to be a moment with the president and the recipient of the Medal of Honor and his family, and so on and so on. The president just walked his way right out of the East Room and got back to work. So this being reported by the London Daily Mail, Taylor shed a tear as the medal was draped around his neck. And a lot of people were very upset as the president simply moved away from the stage and went back to the Oval Office, we assume. He may have gone someplace else. The gaffe came after President Biden was earlier criticized for removing his mask moments before greeting Taylor. This despite First Lady Jill Biden testing positive for COVID-19 the day before. Also the day before, Karine Jean-Pierre at the White House press room podium said the president will be masked while indoors, etc., and he will do that as he would be expected to, and then he immediately takes off his mask as he gives the Medal of Honor to this incredibly brave soldier. Taylor, by the way, Captain Taylor flew over 2,000 combat missions in a UH-1, a Bell UH-1 Huey, and also Cobra helicopters. Led a rescue mission in 1968 to save a small group of soldiers trapped in a rice paddy by enemy troops. On the night of June 18th, 1968, Taylor took off in his attack helicopter to rescue 4 men in a long-range reconnaissance team, a LRP, that had become surrounded. They were in danger of being overrun. He had to figure out a way to get them. Otherwise, they wouldn't make it. David Hill, one of the men Taylor saved that night, said Captain Taylor's actions were what we now call thinking outside the box. Hill and 3 others were on a night mission to track the movement of enemy troops in a village near the Saigon River when they were found by North Vietnamese and Viet Cong troops. An intense firefight ensued. Soon they were running out of ammunition. They radioed for help. Taylor flew off in his attack helicopter, arriving minutes later at the site northeast of what at the time was Saigon, now renamed Ho Chi Minh City. Taylor said the first problem was getting to the trapped soldiers. The first problem he found while trying to get to them was poor visibility. It's difficult to support you because I can't see you and I can't see the bad guys. I'm afraid if I start throwing rockets out there, I'm going to kill one of you all, he recalled saying on the radio. He asked the patrol team to send up some flares to mark their location in the dark. Taylor and a pilot in an accompanying helicopter starting firing their ship's miniguns and aerial rockets, those are called Zuni rockets, at the enemy, making low-level attack runs and braving intense ground fire for about a half an hour. The 2 American helicopters attacked enemy troops using all their rockets, nearly 16,000 machine gun rounds. But with both helicopters nearly out of ammunition, one of the enemy continuing to advance, Taylor surveyed the team's intended escape route to a point near the river, concluded the men would be overrun if they tried to get there. He had to think of something else. He was running low on fuel. The reconnaissance team nearly out of ammunition. Taylor directed his wingman to fire the rounds left in his minigun along the team's eastern flank and then head back to base camp while Taylor fired his remaining rounds on the western flank. He used the helicopter's landing lights to distract the enemy, buying time for the patrol team to head south and east toward a different extraction point. They got together. The troops jumped into the helicopter and they flew away under heavy fire. And that's how you win a Medal of Honor. And so far, Captain Taylor did exactly that. Good man. Back with more in a moment. Stay where you are.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Do you own a timeshare? At first, maybe it seemed like a great investment, but then you realized a lot of the promises made to you were simply not true. A little later, you started receiving the monthly maintenance fees and additional associated bills they failed to mention when you signed the agreement. And now their fees keep rising. Your times to actually use the timeshare keep shrinking, and the resort has no interest in letting you out of the agreement. Your vacation dream has turned into a timeshare nightmare. An overwhelming, never-ending financial obligation that will fall on your children after you're gone. And it seems as if there is no way out. Well, here's some great news. There is a way out. The Timeshare Exit Hotline has helped hundreds of people just like you. Desperate people who thought they were stuck in this burden forever. Although most professionals in the timeshare industry are legitimate, there are those that use aggressive, sometimes even misleading sales tactics to try and trick innocent people into signing their lives away. We've heard many stories of people who have been lied to and others who were kept in a room for over 10 hours, not provided water or anything to eat, pressured until they were exhausted. These people finally signed a contract just to get out of there. If you're one of the unfortunate people who have been roped into a timeshare nightmare and feel there is no way out, call the number on your screen right now. When we take your case, it means we are highly confident that we can win. We'll provide you with an affordable, one-time fixed fee and our 100% client satisfaction guarantee. Now you don't have to face arrogant, aggressive salespeople alone. We're experts in consumer protection, real estate, and contract law. Even if they bullied you into an agreement, rest assured they're not going to bully us. So don't wait. Call us right now. Even if you tried another company that failed you, call us. Our track record of successful negotiations speaks for itself. The call is free, the information is free, and there is absolutely no obligation. A single phone call could free you of this burden. So don't wait. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline right now. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
North to south, coast to coast, around the world. This is the Wells Report. We report the news honestly and fairly. We analyze the news for fact and bias. In short, we de-propagandize the mainstream media. We do make commentary, which is not news. We differentiate between news and commentary. because you don't need to be confused, and people who think their commentary is news, I think have a major problem inside their head bone, which I don't possess. So the simple case of the matter is that yes, we make commentary, it's opinion, yours and mine, and so we debate. That's the check and balance. Do that a couple of different ways. 817-379-2172, that's our telephone number. It works. Please do use it as you see fit. Also, you can join us on the chat room, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Rumble. So, there are lots of things happening. The House of Representatives will get finished with their August break Monday of next week in a few days. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the House of Representatives is lying fallow. In the middle of their break, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer yesterday subpoenaed the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, along with 3 other DHS employees and 2 Secret Service staffers, as the House panel expands its inquiry into whether the Justice Department improperly tipped off the protective agency, the Secret Service, while investigating Hunter Biden over alleged tax crimes. The 6 subpoenas serve dual inquiries seeking information surrounding how the Secret Service, as well as the Biden transition team, was notified about plans to interview the president's son, along with alleging improper conduct by the agencies as the committees aim to get that information. Beyond the details sought about the Secret Service's discussions with the Justice Department, the subpoena includes demands regarding the DHS Office of Legislative Affairs and includes an allegation that DHS blocked the Secret Service from responding to a previous request for interviews regarding claims from IRS whistleblower Gary Shapley. Yeah, if that's true, that's a problem. Shapley was an IRS agent who previously led the investigation into Hunter Biden's tax issues. He testified that Secret Service headquarters was improperly tipped off about a planned December 8th, 2020 attempt to seek an interview with Hunter Biden. And that was the end of those plans. Following Shapley's testimony to Congress, Comer, the House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan, and the House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith, the Republican from Missouri, on June 29th, sent Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle a request for testimony from several Secret Service employees regarding claims from Shapley. In letters to Mayorkas and Cheadle alongside subpoenas yesterday, Comer said that his legislative committee had learned that the DHS Office of Legislative Affairs had instructed the Secret Service to withhold a response to Secret Service that had prepared, that the Secret Service had prepared for the committees. In response, a DHS official said the claim that we obstructed or withheld a response is categorically false, and these subpoenas are entirely without basis. Well, nonetheless, you may believe that those subpoenas are without basis, but that doesn't mean they're not subpoenas, and that does not mean that you don't have to appear forthwith. Now, remember something. Before the Trump era, congressional subpoenas essentially were ignored by high administration officials, cabinet secretaries and the like, simply ignored them. And that was most famously done by Eric Holder, the former Attorney General of the United States, who blew off a Republican Oversight Committee subpoena. And then all of a sudden, people were thrown in jail for not appearing before the Congress when Democrats were in charge. Yeah. Steve Bannon, ring a bell? I mean, these were people that were absolutely horrifically humiliated and embarrassed by these outlandish raids by the FBI and other agencies, showing up at their house in the wee hours of the morning, based on circumstances that were clearly indicative of a two-tiered justice system and certainly two-tiered law enforcement. And so that precedent's already put on the table by Democrats. Well, they're not going to be able to simply ignore these. So Alejandro Mayorkas is going to have to show up and explain under oath why the DHS is being accused of stopping the Secret Service from responding to a congressional subpoena. The DHS doesn't get to do that. That is very much like the Department of Justice interfering with the FBI. That is very bad. They simply cannot do that. By the way, the DHS has jurisdiction over the Department of the Treasury. That's where the Secret Service is employed. When it comes to the FBI, that's under the DOJ, the Department of Justice. So these are rough analogs that may help you with this. By the way, Representative Comer described several conversations between the Oversight Committee and Secret Service about their June requests. He said the Secret Service, August 25th, emailed it intended to provide a written response by the close of business that day, but was waiting for final approval. Later in the day, Comer wrote, the Secret Service told Oversight Republicans in a phone call DHS had instructed its legislative affairs office to not transmit a response. That's what we call obstruction of justice, or obstruction of Congress, more accurately. Several hours later, the agency sent the committee a response saying it was not able to identify any of the current employees with firsthand knowledge of the alleged tip-off about the planned December 2020 Biden contact attempt. During a subsequent conversation days later, the Secret Service said that was not the originally prepared response. Quote, investigators were never able to interview Hunter Biden during the criminal investigation because the Secret Service headquarters and the Biden transition team were tipped off about the planned interview. This is just one of many examples of the misconduct and politicization during the Department of Justice's investigation, said Comer in a statement, adding the Department of Homeland Security is now obstructing our investigation by muzzling the Secret Service from providing a response to Congress. Alongside Mayorkas, Comer subpoenaed DHS Director of Oversight in the Office of Legal and Legislative Affairs, K. Sheik Powell, the DHS Senior Advisor to the General Counsel, Stephen Jonas, DHS Office of Legal Affairs Assistant Secretary Zeffreni Buto, Secret Service Assistant Director in the Office of Intergovernmental and Legislative Affairs, Vincent Tutoni, and Secret Service Acting Special Agent in Charge in the Congressional Affairs Program, David McCown. The DHS official said its process has been misconstrued. DHS works across all our components to respond to congressional inquiries in a uniform and accurate way, said the official. DHS was following standard submission of materials practices and procedures which had been utilized across multiple Congresses. These reviews are a normal and necessary step in the process to ensure protection of law enforcement sensitivities, matters relating to ongoing investigations, privacy and privilege issues, consistency in our responses, and more. The subpoenas request all December 2020 emails from DHS or Secret Service staff relating to the Biden investigation, as well as all emails and communications from June 29th onward dealing with the committee's request regarding Shapley's claims. The alleged tip-off surrounding the planned attempt to show up at Hunter Biden's home to seek an interview and possible Hail Mary consent search on December 8th, as his father was preparing to take office, has been a key part of the House GOP claims of improper handling of tax crimes and the investigations into Hunter Biden. This is big. This is a big deal. This is a serious issue here because if indeed the DHS and the Secret Service, essentially one of their supervised agencies, the DHS supervises the Secret Service, if indeed there is obstruction of Congress, then there is also conspiracy. And this was something that I was talking about during the deep state days of the Trump administration, where you had the director of the FBI, one of the assistant director of the DOJ, Rod Rosenstein. You had the deputy director of the FBI, Andrew McCabe. You had James Clapper, who at that time was the secretary of DHS. Well, actually, yeah, the Office of National Intelligence. When you have all these people coming together to plot the demise of a president that was duly elected in the 2016 election, that's conspiracy for a coup d'etat, which was immediately confused, and essentially the term coup d'etat was used to describe something that came later, the January 6th attack, which was not a coup d'etat, because there was no actual, it was more of a citizens' uprising than anything else, which is a rough analog to the BLM riots. That wasn't called an insurrection. Of course, people say, well, the BLM riots didn't occur at the Capitol. No, but they did occur at federal buildings. It depends on what your interpretation is. And this interpretation has blurred all of these very serious facts because James Comey, the CIA director John Brennan, James Clapper, all of those people realized that they had been taking part in a conspiracy for a coup d'etat, which was why on January, I believe it was the 3rd, it was early in January before the actual Capitol uprising, that President Obama, I'm confusing my elections. This was in after the 2016 election, the early days of 2017. Okay, when President Obama, James Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan, I believe Michael Hadley was there, along with Susan Rice, Val Jarrett, several other people, all got together to, for all intents and purposes, get their stories right, get their stories straight, because they realized that there was a serious problem with all of these conversations, up to and including Rod Rosenstein offering to wear a wire into the Oval Office to record the president saying something damaging so that Trump could be removed from office. And now what we have this update to today, where suddenly these executive branch agencies, empowered by what happened in 2016 and through the Trump administration, somehow believe that they could continue this political enforcement of their jobs. And so now DHS is talking to the Secret Service, telling them not to cooperate with a congressional inquiry. This can get big and ugly very, very fast. And for all intents and purposes, probably should. Will it be painful for the people of the United States to deal with? You bet it will be. You bet. Because this is the government of the United States exposing itself as a band of runaway, renegade executive branch agencies that operate very much in the form of executive branch agencies in governments that are basically totalitarian. They operate without any kind of political oversight in any way, shape, or form. And that oversight is routinely stalled in those kinds of countries. And this is not the country that we choose to live in. This is not the country that these people are trying to turn it into. Now, the question is, are they trying to do it on purpose, or did they just find themselves in a position where the political exigent required them to look like a bunch of small-time, small-country totalitarian thugs? We don't know what their actual motive is, but we do know that that's what they look like. What we are seeing in the United States of America is something more befitting, as many people have said, a third world or banana republic, a disparaging term for Central American nations that constantly vacillate between democracy and communism and so on, depending on which way the wind is blowing. That's not the way we do things in the United States. And this is the solution. At least the Oversight Committee could be the solution. We'll see if they actually pull it off. The Wells Report in progress. We'll be back with more coming up in just a couple of moments. In fact, a Proud Boys leader finds he's going to be spending an awful lot of time with the federal government. That's next on the Wells Report.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doors? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now, you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
This is the Wells Report. I am John David Wells. If you find value in this broadcast, do us a favor. Please subscribe to it. If you subscribe to it, that will help us immensely. Also, by the way, make sure that you turn the notification bell on so that you know when we're going to be on the air. Share this with your friends because we do something a little bit different here. We report the news honestly and fairly. We depropagandize it. We do make commentary, which is nothing more than opinion, but the check and balance, so beautifully decorated in the separation of powers of the Constitution of the United States, is in full force here. What I say is just my opinion. If you disagree, or if you agree, or have a different point of view, then call me, 817-379-2172, 817-379-2172, and share it. From time to time, we ask you questions. For example, the January 6th participants that are currently being sent to jail. I have a question for you. Are these people political prisoners? Yes or no? Are they political prisoners? Yes or no? And tell me why you believe that. 817-379-2172. Are they indeed political prisoners? Yes or no? If you believe they are not political prisoners, if you believe they are common criminals and so on, tell me why you believe that. And tell me, I've got a couple of questions for you that I'd like to ask. 817-379-2172. Are these, most recently, Proud Boys members being sent to prison for decades? Are they indeed political prisoners in your view? Yes or no? And why? USA Today is reporting former Proud Boys national chairman Enrique Tarrio was sentenced yesterday to 22 years in prison. 22 years. The longest sentence yet, related to the Capitol 6th attack, or the Capitol attack on January 6th. This after his conviction for seditious conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election and to keep Donald Trump in the White House. Prosecutors sought 33 years in prison for Tarrio. He's 39 years of age. He's from Miami. He was not at the Capitol on January 6th, but organized the Proud Boys members who were among the first to breach the historic building and who temporarily prevented Congress from counting Electoral College votes to certify the election. Tarrio argued at the trial he was blamed for the riot after President Trump inflamed the mob. He was in Baltimore the day of the attack, didn't direct anybody to assault police or destroy property, and his lawyers, who proposed a sentence no more than 15 years. He said yesterday, "I am not a political zealot. Inflicting harm or changing the results of an election was not my goal. Please show me mercy. I ask you that you not take my 40s from me." U.S. District Judge Timothy Kelly agreed with prosecutors that Tarrio's actions could be punished more harshly as terrorism for trying to influence the government through intimidation or coercion, but not at the level of trying to blow up buildings. The longest-serving sentence went to Stuart Rhodes, the former leader of the Oath Keepers, who got 18 years for seditious conspiracy and other crimes. The Justice Department has appealed to that sentence and has asked for a longer term. Trump was indicted August 1st on conspiracy charges related to obstructing Congress, but not inciting the Capitol attack or seditious conspiracy, which had a lot of people scratching their heads. Just exactly why was that? Is it because they can't prove it? Very likely that's the case. They can't prove seditious conspiracy against the President of the United States. They cannot prove that the president was trying to obstruct Congress. Well, actually, they charged him for that, but they can't prove that he was inciting the Capitol attack. Okay, so just exactly why is it that they can, say, for example, put the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers down for seditious conspiracy, but can't tie the president to it? Clearly, he was speaking about it. There's something badly wrong with all of this, with these people going away for decades and so on and so on. I want to know whether you believe they are political prisoners or not. 817-379-2172. 817-379-2172. Would love to hear your opinion on this as we continue here on the Wells Report. Stick around. There is finally a female coach in the college ranks speaking out about transgender men in sport. We bring that to you next.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
News, analysis, commentary, and debate. This is the Wells Report. Hi, I'm John David Wells. I hope you had a wonderful Tuesday. There was a lot of news yesterday. Some of it was made by Kim Russell. She is the women's lacrosse coach at Oberlin College in Ohio. She showed up yesterday on the Ingram Angle on Fox News, and this was a superb report. Very impressed with both Laura Ingram and the coach. I want to bring this to you because this is worth seeing, especially if you care about female sports in the United States, and I do, very much so. Check this out as the coach of the lacrosse team jumps up and starts talking about the realities in American collegiate sports for a change.
Lacrosse team says that she felt like she was...
All right, hold on just a couple of seconds here. Please stand by. This is so annoying. Yeah, there are certain limitations that you have when you're doing this all by yourself. And one of them has to do with bringing up two things at once. And that's what I just did because I was watching the impeachment trial of Ken Paxton on another channel. But normally what you have to do is you have to turn the audio off there. Anyway, I didn't do that. And because of that, I kind of screwed this up a little bit. So this is me attempting to come back from that error and bring you this entire report. Once again, this is Laura Ingram talking to the coach of the women's lacrosse team at Oberlin College. Check this out.
The coach of Oberlin College's women's lacrosse team says that she felt like she was burned at the stake after speaking out against men who identify as trans competing with women on the team. Kim Russell is saying that after posting on social media about Leah Thomas winning the NCAA championship in swimming, she was hauled in by college administrators and berated.
Unfortunately, we fall into a category of people that are kind of filled with hate in the world.
It's acceptable to have your own opinions, but when they go against, Oberlin College's beliefs, it's a problem, right, for employment.
Now, Russell says that the college demanded she apologize for her post. But guess what? She has courage, and she said, no dice. Joining me now is Kim Russell, women's lacrosse coach at Oberlin, and May Melman, who is a senior legal fellow for the Independent Women's Law Center that's supporting this. Kim, now you say the college warned you that your comments were bad for your employment. So what rules were you actually breaking?
None. There were no rules that I was breaking. I was speaking my belief, my opinion, and when I took that to the college with a letter from my attorney, I said, if I am breaking university policy, please tell me what that policy is. Please do so in writing. And if you're going to fire me for breaking that policy, please do it now.
Is there some like community standards? Like my old college, Dartmouth, God bless Dartmouth, has like a community standards or something like that. Principle of community. It was kind of very ambiguously worded.
Well, funny enough, Oberlin College's missions and values, which is on their website, says that they foster an environment that is respectful of divergent viewpoints. Those are the types of students,
well, that's good.
Yeah, that they want to recruit, and that they want the full range of views represented on campus. But obviously, they are willing to run roughshod all over their principles.
Well, it's just meaningless. It's meaningless. They don't believe what they say. By the way, Oberlin told us that freedom to express one's views is a cornerstone of our democracy and is certainly important to our Oberlin College community. But that when posting on social media, staff should reflect upon any potentially negative posts and the impact that they could have upon your ability to effectively perform the roles and responsibilities of your job. Kim, have players on your team said they can't bring themselves to pass or catch or have a penalty shot because of a Facebook post that you put up about this issue? Are they not able to function?
They still function very well. They still know how to play the game.
Were they upset that you posted this, or some learn about it and some are kind of liberal and were mad?
Yes. So one player did not come to me about the post. She went right to the athletic director.
Brave.
And the athletic director came to me, and that's how this all started.
Yeah. And Ms. Russell is somebody who is at last talking about this the way it should be talked about, which is biological men have no business in women's sports. This is easy. This is easy to fix. All these colleges have all the money in the world. Colleges and universities are endowed. They're doing just fine. They're absolutely doing just fine. And what they can do is they can simply create a transsexual athletic department with leagues and everything. That's all they have to do. That's all you got to do. But for whatever reason, they don't want to do that because they don't want to spend the money. So what they'd rather do is they'd rather try to have this political agenda brilliantly spoken about by the Oberlin College people that were hassling Coach Russell, the women's lacrosse team. She did have these meetings with these people, and she is the one who recorded these meetings with these people. And you can hear the disdain in their voice. I know that's subjective, but still, at the end of the day, that disdain is purely based on nothing, including the rules of the university. In other words, you are free to disagree, but you can't disagree without losing your job. Well, that's clearly intimidation and coercion. That's not the way we do things in the United States. Well, we're a university. We fall outside of the needs of the Constitution of the United States. Oh, okay. So you believe yourselves to be outside of the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, the Federalist Papers that put it all together. You believe you're outside of that? Oh, yes, absolutely. We are free-thinking people. Well, good. Okay, fantastic. Then let me get in touch with Senator Ted Cruz and Representative Dan Crenshaw, and what we'll do is we'll get rid of all of that disgusting government money that goes to Oberlin College. Oh, wait. No, you made it abundantly clear. You see, American money goes to American universities and colleges. If you guys are outside of the American orbit, if you believe, for example, the Constitution of the United States is an obsolete document that has no bearing on the lives of the people that you're educating, No problem whatsoever. We'll get rid of all of that nasty federal government money that must cause real serious problems with hypocrisy in your own minds. How about that? You do that, all this stuff disappears. That's all you do. You know, I look down my nose at universities and colleges in the United States for a very, very long time because mainly they look down their nose at me. And I said to myself, wait a minute, I'm paying you guys to educate me, right? So I'm the customer? Oh, no. We get to pick and choose who we're going to educate because we're a university. Oh, really? Okay. And so you want to charge me $120,000 for an undergrad degree, right? Well, what good does that do me? Well, you have our diploma on your wall. Boy, that's a really expensive certificate. It's almost like those bronze plaques that you see on public works projects around the nation that have all the politicians that are involved. Those are so expensive. They can cost, well, no, they're not expensive at all. What are you talking about? They're not expensive at all. A bronze plaque will probably run you $200-300 tops. No. It's the projects that they're actually memorializing. And the actual names on the plaque that are basically the reason why all of this funding was done in the first place. And those bronze plaques run into the tens, the hundreds of billions of dollars. And that's the same thing with, say, for example, a Harvard diploma. How much does it cost to print a Harvard diploma? What, $20, $25? That's how much the actual document costs? But it's going to cost you $250,000 per year to get one. Really? And so when all these people come up with all of these things, there's a great deal of silliness when it comes to actually administrating this game they're playing. Because it looks to me like the first thing that you learn in a college and university is a class called, Unrequited Ego 101. You know, this is real simple. I know I'm just a country bumpkin from the mountains of North Carolina, but even I can see this. Set up a transgender sports league, NCAA. Set it all up. Put it out there with the trophies. You know, this will give your trophy designers a new way of looking at things. You see, it's really crazy. You could create a trophy with the NC2A logo on it that looked like one thing, but was actually something else. I don't care what you think. That was funny. That really was. I mean, sure, maybe a little bit borderline evil, but very funny nonetheless. And I'm not trying to be evil. These people are confused. You don't kick people when they're down. They're confused. If they want to alter their body forever, that's their business as long as they're over 18. But there are certain realities that even somebody who is confused about their particular gender have to deal with. Regardless of what you think in your head, you were still born male. You still have male endocrine systems. You still have all of the things that are male. Cosmetically, you can alter yourself to look like a female, but you're still male, and vice versa. And vice versa. We know enough about these systems to be able to approximate the physiology of the opposite gender if somebody wants to give it a try. And that's up to them. And I have no problem with them at all. And if they want to do that, etc., and they want to make a life-altering and physicality-altering choice, okay, that's fine. As long as you're over 18, it's up to you. It's not up to us. And if you want to pay, for crying out loud, if you want to pay $125,000 a year and up for an education, you're darn right there ought to be a league for you to compete in all the NCAA divisions. You're darn right there should be. You're paying a dang fortune for this education. You ought to have some of the accoutrements that go with it, right up to the point where you, as a biological male, are competing against biological females. You should be competing against transgender athletes, very much like yourself. And you ought to have a set of sports that comport with the capabilities of both male to female transgender folk and female to male transgender folk. Make it all nice and fair, set it all up. You could take care of this. You could solve this entire problem. You solve this entire problem in what? It would probably take maybe a month of conversation, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Take about a month of conversation and then 6 months or so to get all the rules set up. And then probably another 6 months to get other universities to buy in. So in about a year, you could fix this entire problem, even moving at the speed of the NCAA. But they don't. And it's mean-spirited and it's rotten. And why they're putting the Oberlin College lacrosse team through all this, I have no idea. But here are some of the things that she said. You heard Laura Ingraham ask, what rules did they break? Well, there were no rules that they were breaking. I was speaking my belief, my opinion. When I took to the college a letter from my attorney, I said, if I'm breaking university, please by all means tell me what policy that is. And if you're going to fire me for breaking that policy, by all means do it now. Oberlin College delivered a statement that said freedom to express one's views as a cornerstone of our democracy is certainly important to the Oberlin College community. Yeah, well, it may be important, but you don't follow it. They said that one player on the, Coach Russell said that one player on the lacrosse squad was very upset and went directly to the athletic director, and that's what started all of this. Okay, well, there you go. I believe that women should be competing against biological females, she said. We heard from our coaches who want to be leaders on their teams. It's up to the adults. We can't let the whole obligation for women rest on college kids. There have to be coaches that speak up and protect women. And then she said something that really stuck with me. She said that it is scientific biologically that men and women are different, period. I don't believe biological males should be in women's locker rooms. And then she said this, where's the Me Too movement now? What happened to those people? That is a great, great question, isn't it? It's amazing what kind of clarity, actual truth, as opposed to the ignorance of truth for the sake of unreality. It's amazing what kind of clarity you can derive simply by telling the truth. What happened to hashtag #MeToo? What happened to all these people fighting for women's sports during the Title IX arguments? Where are all these people? Quiet. Which means what? Well, it means that they're flipping hypocrites, both in what they're doing now and what they were doing then when they actually fought a good fight to get the same kind of funding for female sports as they did with male sports, which was good. But where are they now? Back in a moment.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost. Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship.
Call 877-655-6870. That's 877-655-6870. 877-655-6870.
This is the Wells Report. John David Wells at your service. Our executive producer, Dirk Steele, now applauding and celebrating the fact this is the last segment of today's broadcast. Well, so I was thinking about that quote by the great Kim Russell, who was the lacrosse coach of Oberlin College. Where are the hashtag #MeToo people? Where's the hashtag #MeToo movement? I'm real interested in that. I'm also interested in all of the, remember those silly hats that those women were wearing during the Trump administration? Where are those, okay, I'm going to call them kitty hats. That's not what they called them. Where are the kitty hats? Where are all those girls? Where's Madonna? What's she doing? Running for the tall grass is what she doing. That's right. Running for the tall grass. Because these people have been exposed as frauds. That's why. They have been exposed as frauds. And this is nuts. And by the way, so a guy who's out there trying to get a date and puts a woman down as just being a woman, we call those guys misogynists. What do we call guys who pretend they're women that still are men, both physically and mentally, competing with women? How come they're not misogynists? Speaking of the people wearing the kitty hats. I mean, at some point, you got to stop defying gravity. At some point, you run across a situation where, gosh, you know what? You kind of look hypocritical. You look inauthentic. You look like frauds. And crazily, there's nothing like sports to be able to determine whether or not you're a fraud or not, which seamlessly takes us to the men's U.S. Open. You'll note that there are not a lot of men playing against women in the U.S. Open, although that's happened before. Dr. Renee Richards was one of the early pioneers of transgenderism. She turned herself into a woman and played on the women's tour for a time. She was not successful. But this guy is. You need to, this guy is amazing. He is a brand new tennis star. And as a matter of fact, let me give you a little bit more information on him before we play this video. His name is Ben Shelton. Ben Shelton was taking on Francis Tiafoe. And this was a match to get into the semifinals. This was a quarterfinals match last night. And Ben won this thing, and he won it with shots like this. You got to see this. Bam.
Come on.
Unbelievable.
I mean, that's
That's his dad, by the way, not him.
20 years old, he just double faulted twice. You know, so I'm going to guess. I'm going to step around.
Watch this.
A massive forehand right in the corner.
That might be the most spectacular shot you'll ever see.
Clock this one.
Unbelievable. Yeah. He went on to win that match, and I got to tell you, that guy has a 149-mile-an-hour serve, and he's 20. Okay? He is 20 years old. Ben Shelton hit 2 consecutive double faults. He had set point against Francis Tiafoe. Set point down against Francis. He came up with that magic shot. In his first ever U.S. Open quarterfinal, Big Ben is making this a show. Now, the U.S. Open is not dealing with transgender athletes on either side of the draw. And the female competition is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But imagine this 20-year-old guy, okay, Ben Shelton. Can you imagine him taking a 149-mile-an-hour serve up against the women's draw in the U.S. Open? Where does that end up? Well, it ends up with the guy carrying the women's trophy of the U.S. Open, and a lot of women who have worked their entire lives to get to the U.S. Open get set aside by some guy who's feeling pretty today. That's what we're going to do. And granted, I got to be honest with you. I'm not transphobic. What people want to do with their bodies is their business. It's their body. They get to do that. Mess around with my children, we have an issue. Try to say that, well, I'm a woman now so I can compete with women. It depends on what sport. Depends on what sport. You know, I was an AAU competitive swimmer when I was a kid, and there were reasons why the women didn't swim with the guys. I mean, I was in high school. I swam against a female Olympic athlete and just swam right away from her. And there's a reason why you don't do that. And so what you have to keep in mind is that let's let the girls swim against the girls, play against the girls. Let's let the guys play against the guys. The guys and girls that are in between, let them play too. The NCAA could fix this immediately. That they don't just shovels more of this leftist hypocrisy into the NCAA mix. It's ridiculous. The executive producer of the Wells Report is Dirk Steele. The associate producer is Jube Dankworth. Also associate producer credits for Gary Olivier, who helped us out with some of our content today. This is the Wells Report. Make sure you pass this along to your friends, and we'll see you tomorrow. Okie dokie. All right. Phew. Woo. Okay. All right, that's pretty much everything I've got for today. I hope you have a wonderful time, and I want to thank you very much for being a part of our broadcast. Until tomorrow, take good care, be safe, make good decisions.